Here we go on our Wednesday edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. We are starting our position reviews, and we're starting it off easy. We're going with the running back position here. Our Football Insider subscribers feel very good about this position. Most of them rated it a 10. On average, it came down to an 8. But full disclosure, I think that was an 8 because I wasn't very clear, with 10 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. I think some people thought 1 was the most confident. So even that was skewed a little bit. Let's just say our Football Insider subscribers were very, very confident in the Browns running back position moving forward. Not a lot of movement to discuss here, not a lot of options to discuss. So I thought maybe I would throw some questions at you guys about this position and get your thoughts. And so just the very first question, looking back on the 2021 season, Mary Kay, do you think the Browns used Nick Chubb enough this season? He finished second in the league in rushing yards, but do you think the Browns used him enough?
Actually, I don't. I mean, it seemed like there were times where he was either standing over on the sidelines and they weren't using him at key times when I thought they would. There were some games where, they were playing against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and it just seemed like pounding that ball was going to be the way to go, and they didn't necessarily do it. So I do think that they could have gotten more mileage out of Nick Chubb. Now, I think they're trying, he's at that point in his career where I think they're trying to save the tread on the tires a little bit and not run him into the ground. And they didn't have Kareem Hunt. And so therefore, in a lot of those, goal line situations and 10 yards and in situations, they didn't have Kareem when they would normally use him. So I don't think that helped matters, but still, I think that there were plenty of times where a little bit more of Nick Chubb would have gone a long way.
Ashley, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Mary Kay. And, I think for me in particular, the one area I would have liked to see them use him more was in their pass game, kind of like how they use Kareem Hunt. And that seems like that's been something that Nick Chubb has been open to as well. We saw him get pretty involved in the pass game against the Packers, for example, but I do think they left some opportunities out there in regards to that. And every time you ask Nick Chubb about it, he kind of just gives you a typical Nick Chubb answer that he'll do whatever it takes for them to win. And I just think overall, the more Nick Chubb you can get, the better. But again, I kind of see there, if they are in fact trying to save some tread on the tires, as Mary Kay said, that's understandable considering how much he means to this team and how this team is obviously built to run the football. But overall, given that, I think some frustration that we weren't getting enough of him is also understandable.
So the tread on the tires thing, I think, is really interesting. I thought in that Pittsburgh game, right, there were a lot of people who were complaining in week 17 that, why didn't the Browns use Nick Chubb more? And I think a big part of it was the Browns were eliminated. So they weren't going to give the ball to Nick Chubb 30 times in that game. And same with Cincinnati. I mean, Nick Chubb was essentially the backup in that game and really only out of necessity. But Mary Kay, how do you balance, I guess, if you're the Browns? This is a guy you've extended. You want to have him be your running back for a long time, but we know the shelf life on these guys is not long. They clearly don't want to run him into the ground. But how do they balance, I guess, kind of riding him versus, saving him for 3-4 years down the road even?
Well, I think the best way to do that will be to get Kareem Hunt back and to use Dearness Johnson in other situations where you just want to give Nick Chubb a little bit of a breather here and there. I think that's the way to do it. And he's not necessarily in that way going to win the rushing title that he almost won one year. But, that doesn't matter. He'll get his 1,000 yards and he'll still go to the Pro Bowl and he'll still help them win games. But I think that's the best way to do it. I think it is time now to kind of try to take care of him a little, keep him fresh, not only for the end of the season and hopeful playoffs, but also for the fourth quarter of games where sometimes he can turn on those jets when the defense is gassed. So I don't mind the philosophy. I just think it works a whole lot better when you've got Kareem Hunt who can take the heat off of him.
How would you balance that, Ashley? Is it? I mean, I guess it's a smart approach, but at the same time, when push comes to shove, you've got to have Chubb ready to go.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked so much about how this team is built to win now with so many of these pieces, including Nick Chubb. But I think Mary Kay hit the nail on the head here. The health of Kareem Hunt is huge. And I know we're probably going to discuss him and the myriad of injuries he had this year, and he missed half their games. And that's such a key piece of your offense that you're missing. And when you have a piece like that out, it kind of creates like a ripple effect throughout your offense. And I think how they use Nick Chubb, how much they used him, all of that stuff was affected by Kareem Hunt not being on the field due to these injuries. So I think that's a huge part of how they balance how much they use Nick Chubb going forward, and whether Kareem Hunt can stay healthy in 2022 is going to be key.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like what we saw. I mean, what we saw Sunday night with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. All of a sudden, both these guys, they always use their legs, but Sunday night it was like caution to the wind. Josh Allen decided to be a running back in the playoffs, basically. But you're not going to see him do that as much in the regular season. With Chubb, it's kind of like, let's get enough to win games, but also let's make sure when we get to January, if we want to give you the ball 30 times, you're ready to go. Not just this year, but for the next 3 or 4 years.